Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, Bean here, and today I'm coming at you with my May stats and my May reading wrap-up. Yes, I'm going to try and get back into the stats even though I'm just giving myself a lot of work right now. I'm also still relearning how to film in a new location. For instance, in this location I have learned the floor is not flat, it is tilted a little bit. And so one of the legs of my tripod is longer than the other two. So today we learned, this is going to be interesting. But I actually read books in the month of May, so I'm really excited. So I get to share that with you guys. It's not a lot, but considering, I believe from February to April, I read like 5 books maybe in that time. I will say 3 books that I did finish that are not in this wrap-up are my 3 textbooks. So I did actually, for my classes, read the entire textbook for class. So if you're thinking about grad school, remember that you, at least for my program, we do read the entire thing. Like, that's a lot to read. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Or behind, I don't know. Anyways, we're gonna move on to the fun books I read, and all of the books that I read in the month of May were fiction. I did not read any nonfiction this month, because I am not counting my textbooks in this summary. Overall, I did read, or I did go through 7 books. One was a DNF, so it's not counting towards my page count. But I read about 1,407 pages, which breaks down to 1,179 pages and about 4.82 hours of audio listening. 2 of the books I had were between 300 and 499 pages. 5 of them were under 300 pages. Like I said, all of them were fiction. 2 were print books, 2 were audiobooks, and 3 were digital books. Now, as far as ratings, I have added the 0.25 and 0.75 to my rating system because I was struggling so much with doing ratings. I know Goodreads hates this, but I have actually switched over and I'm using Storygraph more than Goodreads right now, and I'm really liking it. So we'll see how it goes. I'm going to be using both for now, so just so you guys know. The top rating I gave this month was a 4.75. That 1 book got 4.75, 2 books got a 4.0, 1 book got a 3.75, 1 got a 3.5, 1 got a 2, and 1 I DNF'd. So, yes. Let's hop right into it. So, thing to know, 3 of the books, technically, that I read this month were library books, so I don't have physical copies of them. The first one being I read Over the Woodward Wall, which is the first book in the Up and Under series by Deborah Baker, which is a pen name of Mira Grant, or Shauna Maguire. They're all the same person. This is, I believe this is technically a horror story. No, a sci-fi story. And this follows 2 children who are on their way to school. These children are complete opposites. One is very out there, very what you might say like hippie-esque. She's a very free child, and the other one is he's very peculiar about how he looks. He's very particular about everything. And these 2 children come across a wall, and they, in typical, like, 4th grader status, I believe they're 4th grade, maybe? I don't even know if they were that old. They go over the wall and find themselves in another world. And now they must figure out and find their way through this very confusing and very nonsensical world. And I loved this story. I devoured it. It was so flowery. It was so just like encouraging. I felt really good reading the book. I really enjoyed it. So I liked that one. I highly recommend the series. Mira Grant, Shauna Maguire, Deborah Baker is one of my favorite authors of all time, honestly. Most of the stuff that they've read, most of the stuff that they've written, I haven't read everything yet. I plan to at some point, but I really, really am enjoying the series. It's novellas, they're short stories. They're not actual short stories, but they are shorter books. So far, I believe there's 3 in this series. I have the second one that I just rented from the library as well, so I will be reading that one hopefully this month. The second book that I read was actually an arc that I had, and that is Little Eve by Catriona Ward. And I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5. I enjoyed it. This is a story that's told a little bit backwards. You start at the end and then go to the beginning. Basically, the entire story takes place, she's telling it from a courtroom. So they're learning you learn who the characters are, why they're on trial, why people were murdered, and what I can say about this book is it took me by surprise. Sometimes in a good way, sometimes in a not so good way. This was a cult book. So first and foremost warning, this is a story about a cult, and it's very difficult. It was a difficult one to read at points. If you want my full thoughts, I actually did read this in a reading vlog, or I finished it in a reading vlog, and I kind of gave my full thoughts there. But I did enjoy this book. But I also admit it is not for the faint of heart. This is not a everybody will love this book kind of book. This was not that kind of story really at all, so I cannot say that. But it was still really good. I still enjoyed it. So, weirdly, like, it wasn't a good story, it was well done. How about that? That's a better way of putting that. So, be wary of that one if you do read it. The next book that I read The Dragon's Bride by Katee Robert. This is the first book in the A Deal with a Demon series. It is a novella, and unfortunately, very similar to the other novella I read by Katee Robert, I gave this a 2-star. I know that some people absolutely adore this series. I will try another one. I think part of it was a lizard. It didn't work for me. That's apparently my line in romance is lizards. just no, not really my thing, I guess. This is the story of Briar Rose, who ends up selling her soul to a demon, who then sells her, basically, to a dragon. A big lizard. This is the dragon. Yeah. I own this book. Yeah. And basically she has to live with him, stay with him for, I think it's a year? 5 years? I don't remember. But I kind of blocked a lot of this out. It was alright smut. Again, it wasn't really my thing though. Some of it was good. It had an interesting plot line, but again, it felt a little forced for me, so I wasn't a big fan of it. But I also know that for some people, this is their bread and butter. They absolutely devour these books and absolutely love them. I enjoyed it for the smut it was, and I really can't say much more than that because I didn't enjoy much. I enjoyed the main character. She was interesting. That's about what I got. Alright, the next book I read a manga. I started a new manga series because I have no chill. I started The Witch and the Beast, Volume 1 by Kousuke Satake. And I'm so sorry if I'm butchering that. I'm really bad at pronunciation. This was actually a really fun one. This follows our two main characters who are on the hunt as witch hunters to try and hunt down a witch. The reason we learn that they are hunting these witches is because one of our main characters was actually cursed by a witch, and so in order to break that curse, they need to find the witch and kill her, or get her to repent for what she has done. So, there's a lot of violence, there's a lot of blood, there's a lot of gore, there's a lot of fighting, there's a lot of swearing and violence. It's a lot of fun though. I really enjoyed this first one. It's a great introduction to the characters and to this world, and I love it. I really enjoy manga though, just in general. The next book that I read was another actual arc that I got, which I didn't expect to get. And that was Heir of Uncertain Magic by Charlie N. Holmberg. This is the second book in the Whimbrel House series. I read the first one in January? I think in January, and I really liked it. This follows our two main characters, Hulda and Merritt. Merritt has inherited a house, at least in the first book, Merritt has inherited a house on an island off of Rhode Island, and that house is possessed in some way, shape, or form. Basically, it plays a lot of pranks, and it does a lot of really weird things, like the fact that the first time he enters the house doesn't let him leave. And so Hulda is from an agency that works with enchanted rooms, and she comes and there's a bit of a romance, but it's very Victorian. And when I say very Victorian, I finished book 2 and I've just gotten a little glimpse at the romance. Like, it's there, but it's not there yet. That's not the focus of the story, so you really can't call it a romance. I would call this a historical fiction, fantasy. There is magic in this world, and it is categorized very interestingly. I finished the first book, and I didn't understand quite why we were doing a second book, but the characters and the potential of the second book had me interested, and so I did request it and I ended up getting it, and I ended up giving it a 3.75. It was good. Was it the best book I've read? No. But it was really good, and I will be reading the third one because I'd like to know what happens. I really would. The characters are interesting, they're fun, they're a little bit different. I really like Hulda, she's fun, and Merritt's great. He's an author, and I really like Merritt. He's just like a little puppy dog. He's so cute. But highly recommend. It's a good series. So far, Duology third book is scheduled to come out. The next book I tried to read was I went with Lying in the Deep by Diana Urban. I kid you not, I listened to the first like 20 minutes of this audiobook and went, no, I can't do this. I honestly can't do this book. This is a story that this is a YA book. And the main character is dumped by her boyfriend, now ex-boyfriend, through a text while he's abroad, only to find out he's dating her best friend, and both of them ghost her. And like, that sucks. That royally sucks. I will not deny that. Her reaction is to plot their murders. Like, calm down, teenagers. I get you're upset, but calm down. That was a bit much for me, a bit dramatic. Maybe I'm just not dramatic enough for some of these books, but I did not feel like I was dramatic enough to understand her reasoning behind wanting to kill them both. It didn't work for me. I didn't like her narrative voice. Basically, because they have done this, she decides to do a semester abroad on a cruise ship to visit all these different countries, and lo and behold, both of them are also on the cruise ship, which that also royally sucks. It really does. And we find out in the first chapter that her best friend's murdered, and she's considered a prime suspect. Yeah, this sounds about right. So, I don't know, it was supposed to be based off of Death on the Nile, or like it's a little bit, that's kind of the outline for it or something like that. I couldn't get into it. I didn't like the narrator. I didn't like her voice. I didn't care, honestly. She bugged me. I did not finish this book. And the last book that I read, I actually really enjoyed, and I'm surprised, and I read Into the Pit, the first book in the Five Nights at Freddy's Fazbear Frights series. Now, this is a series of short stories. You can kind of see, but there's a couple lines in here. There's 3 short stories in this collection. I have the next 2 because I will be reading them. This is by Scott Cawthon and Elley Cooper. This was a lot of fun. It was very creepy, very FNAF. It was very much on the same level of creepy as you get with the FNAF games. Add YA characters. It was honestly a blast. I really enjoyed this, which is good because I tried the start of Silver Eyes and I just couldn't get into the full novel form, but I think these novellas, these short stories, are gonna be amazing to read, and I'm so excited. There's so many of these, and they've come out with a second series. I'm so excited. So, that's what I read in the month of May. I kind of went off on a little bit of a tangent on a couple of those. I hope you forgive me. But yeah, that's what I got for you guys. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like, comment, and subscribe. We post videos every Wednesday, Friday, and the occasional Sunday. And we'd really like it if you would join us in our bookish journeys and discussions and such. And until next time, guys, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep reading. Bye!